Hey guys, got a fun video here today. I'm going to do explanation of how the oil gauge works on the 03 through 07 5.9 Cummins Dodge trucks here. Get a lot of questions on the forums and then on Facebook and some of the groups there. Guys will post up there a picture of their gauge and they'll say, is this a normal oil pressure? The answer to that is yes, it's normal. It doesn't really matter, what speed you're going or what viscosity oil you put in there or anything, because it's all pre-programmed. Your oil gauge is flat out lying to you every time you turn it on. Basically, the sending unit on the engine is a 5 psi on-off switch. When you develop more than 5 psi of engine oil, it turns on, sends a signal to the computer, and then the computer references your engine speed and your coolant temperature and makes up a pressure to display on that gauge right there. So I'm going to fire up the truck right now. We'll see what it does stock. So you can see there 750 RPM idle, and we're sitting just below, kind of between 20 and 40 psi. Now if I bring the idle up closer to 2,000, you'll see the oil comes up. Alright. Now if we come over here, so I've done a lot with proprietary parameter tuning, and this table is just one more of the things that I found in here. So basically, if we expand on that, we have the oil pressure gauge. And you can see, so my coolant temperature was probably just about 190, maybe 180. And then we went up to just under 2,000 RPM. So you can see right here, there's the pressure. So 50 PSI at 1,500 RPM, up to 54 PSI at 2,500 RPM. So we're going to do a little experiment here. I'm going to play around just to demonstrate that this is actually the case. Let's just do this. We're going to set that to all 20 psi. Okay, so we're set to all 20 psi. I'm going to go ahead and save the file, and then we're going to export it to the SD card. Yes, we want to replace that. Alright, all done. Then we'll put it in the, I have a Smarty Touch here, we'll put it in that and program it. Alright, so we'll go to Program. The oil test file. And there we go. So we're going to program that in, and then I'll demonstrate how it works. So basically, this is a parameter that's not included in any off-the-shelf tuning programs. I had to add this one into my tuning software manually, but just kind of trying to make more people a believer that these parameters actually exist and they can be added in here. So we'll go back to the tuner here in a minute once it finishes up, and I'll demonstrate that the oil pressure is going to stay at 20 psi no matter what after we program this. Alright, so we're just finishing up the programming process here. There we go, just clicked in, we got our gauges back, and now we're doing the key on off cycle. Alright, and you see the engine oil pressure there is just holding at 20, and it's going to do that no matter what RPM we go to. You remember from before, once we hit over about 1500, that oil pressure gauge started to go up, but now it's just sitting at 20 because that's exactly what we programmed it to. So now let's come back here. We'll have a little fun with it here. Let's go 501. All right, we're going to try that again. Had to make a little adjustment there. Okay, there it goes. So let's say we want everything up to 1500 RPM to say 20 psi. Then we want everything after that to go to 90. Let's see what that does for us. Okay, so back through the programming process again, and we'll catch it on the back side when it finishes up here. All right, we finished the programming, so we're going to do the key on, key off. There we go, done. And let's fire it up and see what we got. Alright, idle. Looks like we got about 20 psi, just like we expect. And remember, if we programmed it to hold 20 psi, and then as soon as it crosses 1500, it should jump to 90. Let's see what happens. Oh, there it goes. Bring it down. Just below 1500 there. Comes back down to 20. Just as we programmed it. Alright, so I think it's important to note I'm not changing the linearization of the sensor. Linearization means, like, you know, if it's reading 3 volts, show 20 psi. If it reads 4 volts, you know, show 10 or 40, whatever. If you don't believe me, you can take that sending unit out, hook it up to an air compressor. You'll get an on-off function on a electric meter, like a continuity meter, right around 5 psi. So you pump it up to 5 psi, it'll click on, the sensor will come alive, and then you drain it off, it'll click back off again. So basically the only thing that you can really count on that gauge to tell you is that you have beyond 5 psi of engine oil pressure. Other than that, the gauge is just showing you exactly what's pre-programmed in the computer. So hopefully you found that interesting, useful. Hopefully that kind of can be sort of a resource for some of you guys out there. Share it and let your buddies know. If you see that question pop up, link to this video, you know, on the forums or on Facebook, whatever. Maybe we can put this whole "is this oil pressure normal" question to bed. Anyway, hope you enjoyed watching it. I had a good time making it, and I'll see you on the next one.